December 29th, 1610. Countess Elizabeth Báthory stands in her chambers surrounded by account books. She's 50 years old, one of the wealthiest women in Hungary. She commands vast estates and loans money to the king himself. Right now, she's hearing boots on the stone stairs. Many boots. What happens next will raise a question that echoes across centuries. What happens when power is prosecuted without procedure? Her cousin, Palatine Georgi Thurzo, arrives with soldiers. They report finding a dead girl in the hall, another dying, 2 more imprisoned below. Elizabeth believes her rank makes her untouchable. What she doesn't understand is that her arrest will bypass every procedural protection. She will never face formal charges, never confront witnesses, never be given a trial. Welcome back. Today we're examining Elizabeth Báthory, the Blood Countess, whose case reveals what happens when procedural protections collapse, even for the powerful. Born in 1560 into one of Hungary's most powerful families, Elizabeth receives an extraordinary education. She's fluent in Hungarian, Latin, German, and Greek. She manages complex financial accounts, skills that prepare her to manage estates and navigate credit networks without male intermediaries. This capability will become both her greatest asset and potentially her greatest vulnerability. At 15, she marries Ferenc Nadasdy, the Black Knight of Hungary. With Ferenc constantly at war, Elizabeth rules. She manages estates, handles finances, settles disputes, commands servants and soldiers. For 29 years, she's protected by her husband's reputation. Then, in 1604, Ferenc dies. Elizabeth is 44 and suddenly one of the wealthiest landowners in Hungary. No husband, no male protection. Widows with property occupy an ambiguous legal space. They have property rights but limited procedural protection. Elizabeth is more economically powerful than most men in Hungary, but her procedural vulnerability has just increased dramatically. She loans enormous sums to nobles, including her cousin Thurzo and King Matthias II himself. These create ongoing power asymmetries, and that's when the rumors begin. Servant girls are dying at her castles. The whispers intensify. 10 deaths, 20, 50. Eventually, rumors claim hundreds. Financial analysis contrasted with social anxiety. Rumors visualized as information network, not supernatural, spreading through normal social channels. Uncertainty foregrounded, truth or anxiety about powerful creditor woman. Thurzo launches a formal investigation in 1610, but every procedural element presents problems. Thurzo owes Elizabeth massive debts. The king owes her money. If Elizabeth is found guilty, her estates can be seized and debts cancelled. Every witness is questioned under threat of torture. The evidence and the financial incentive arrive at exactly the same moment. December 29th, 1610. The raid. They arrest Elizabeth and 4 servants, but no formal charges are filed against Elizabeth herself. Her servants are imprisoned for trial. Elizabeth is detained in a different legal category. Her rank protects her from prosecution, but not from imprisonment without charge. Instead, her 4 servants are put on trial in January 1611. Under torture, a standard procedure in early modern Europe, they confess. Numbers vary dramatically. Some confessions cite 36 deaths, others over 50. Later accounts claim 600. The servants are executed. Modern forensic psychology has established that torture produces unreliable testimony. But Elizabeth never confronts these witnesses, never testifies. Elizabeth is imprisoned in her own castle. They brick up the windows and doors, leaving only small openings for food and air. This is not legal judgment, it's administrative detention that bypasses formal procedure entirely. For 4 years, Elizabeth writes letters demanding a trial. She repeatedly asks, "Why am I not allowed to defend myself? What trial convicted me?" No one responds. Her demands for procedure are met with silence. While imprisoned, her estates are divided. Thurzo acquires properties. The king seizes lands. Debts to her are cancelled. The alleged death diary listing 600 victims is never produced, never entered into evidence, never found in any archive. The most cited piece of evidence exists only in testimony extracted under torture, never in physical form. On August 21, 1614, Elizabeth is found dead in her sealed chamber, age 54. Never formally convicted, never tried. Even in death, she's treated as guilty of crimes for which she was never convicted. The evidence against Elizabeth is substantial in volume. Multiple witnesses testified. Some details appear repeatedly. However, every confession was extracted under torture. The chief investigator had massive debts to the accused and seized her property. She was a Protestant woman in an increasingly Catholic-dominated system, and she was never given the procedural opportunity to challenge evidence or present a defense. The process that convicted her in public memory was procedurally compromised at every level. Here's what should alter how we understand this case. The famous blood-bathing story does not appear in any trial testimony from 1610 to 1611. This detail emerges over 100 years later. The most famous element is a later addition, narrative embellishment that accumulated over time. Archaeological investigations have found limited human remains. The physical evidence doesn't support the highest numerical claims. The mystery is why procedural protections failed so completely that we'll never have a reliable accounting. Elizabeth Báthory's story reveals 3 enduring lessons about power. Lesson 1. Power without procedural protection is fragile. Elizabeth's wealth did not prevent her imprisonment without trial. Lesson 2. When power controls the record, it shapes reality. Most evidence came from confessions extracted under torture by investigators with financial stakes in her conviction. Lesson 3. Narrative fills the vacuum of silence. The blood-bathing legend appears decades after her death, despite never appearing in trial testimony. Elizabeth Báthory remains suspended between atrocity and accusation. Her story is about how power without procedural protection can collapse and how systems determine whose version of events survives. Thanks for watching. If this case made you think differently about how we evaluate historical accusations, subscribe for more. Can we ever truly assess guilt when the accused is silenced? And what does it mean that we've told Elizabeth Báthory's story for 400 years, but never gave her the chance to tell it herself?